Okay. Huh.
Scurry. Who the hell is it? Google.
So he's one of the most fascinating things that Brad Holmes did. He's clearly this year's Broderick Martin, the guy they couldn't let go that they traded up to get. And everybody wants to know, did they need to trade up to get him?
Well, that's the big question, right?
But they didn't care. They didn't care where they were like, this is a guy that we don't want to lose. And they gave up a third rounder next year to get a fourth round pick this year. And Brad Holmes couldn't let this guy go. And, you get back to, does it, all that matters is that you build a winner. Every pick doesn't have to hit. But it's fascinating. I said last year after the draft, Broderick Martin to me is the most fascinating player in this draft because the Lions couldn't let him go and traded up to take a player that people thought was a 6th, 7th rounder, but the Lions had him graded higher than that. And I respect their board. I mean, Brad Holmes builds great draft boards. He did it in L.A. when Les Snead was making the picks, but he was a director of college scouting. And now he's doing it in Detroit. And his staff is doing a great job in Detroit. And they've done a great job building draft boards. And Broderick Martin at this point is a question mark whether or not he's ever really going to make an impact. And Giovanni Manu is, and maybe this is a Brad Holmes special, that every year we can expect Brad Holmes to do something along these lines. But yeah, they were not going to let him go. And I find it fascinating.
Well, it is fascinating. It's completely fascinating. Just based on numbers, how can you not be like, what? This guy's, just under 6'8", 350 pounds plus, just scratching the surface on what he is as a football player, that's the concern, right? Because this guy hasn't played against real competition. He played, in Canadian college league, basically. So is it
University?
Sorry, yeah, university. So is that what's that, grade 13 and beyond?
Yeah.
It's basically, better than high school competition, but it's not competition you see here in the States unless you go drop down divisions of college football. So you don't really know. But what you do know is that you're getting a guy who's a former basketball player, used to average 30 points and 15 rebounds a game. So there's athleticism there. You don't do that without being able to be some kind of athlete. The fact that he is as big as he is, he's transitioning to the football life with putting on that kind of weight. And you watch some highlights of him, and he looks pretty good. You start to see, I don't know if it's RAS scores or whatever, but my brother was sending me text messages of, comparing him to what Penei Sewell looked like coming out of the draft. And there are some interesting comparisons between the two with test scores and stuff like that. The thing I really like about this pick is that there's so much mystery to it. The mystery is fun.
Yep. Mystery is fun.
And when you get a guy like this who's got this kind of size and athleticism that now gets to be molded by professional coaches, and the Lions have a really good offensive line coach in Hank Fraley, and knowing how practices work, and I was mentioning this to John Jansen as he was walking out of the studio, I said, here's what I love about this. This kid is going to get the benefit of working against the number one defense for the Lions all season long, because you don't practice ones versus ones very often. But you know what? Who gets to go against the ones? This guy.
Yep.
He's going to get all the reps against Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston and Marcus Davenport. All he can handle. Josh Paschal, Kaminsky, them all, right? And he's going to get a ton of those reps. He's going to grow up in a hurry. And I heard John this morning say, he's going to get punched in the mouth, and they're going to find out early whether or not he likes it and likes the violence of the NFL experience, or if he's going to shy away from it. And it seems like this is a guy who might just like it. And you're going to get better and better going against better competition. That's what he's going to see in practice every day. He's not going to be buried in practice. He's going to have to go against those guys in practice.
And they hope this is their Jordan Mailata from Philly, who was a rugby player in Australia and just had great size and had the quote, "I knew as little as peanuts about American football," and now he's a good player. And you hope that that's what he is. But at the end of the day, it may not work out.
May not.
But it's clearly a risk. They didn't want to even run the risk of not getting him, so they moved up. They aggressively moved up to add Giovanni Manu, one of the more fascinating players they took in this draft. Let's get to the people. 248-539-9797. Bill's in Sterling Heights, and he's on 97.1. Hi, Bill.
Hi, good morning, guys.
What's up?
It was just a great weekend. I was down there on Thursday. Took the 24-second shuttle, actually.
There you go.
And, yeah. And they dropped us off by the Pontchartrain, and I just went in a local establishment down there and watched the draft, and it was a great time. It was all love, and, it was loud. Yeah, the place was bumping. It was a great time. I really liked their draft. I think it'd be almost impossible to end up having a better draft than they had last year, given the results from what we've seen in just a year. But I really like it. I like that they doubled up on the corners. And, it's interesting. Yeah, Manu is definitely kind of the story of their draft to see how that progresses. But just a quick Champ and Chump. Champ is definitely the city of Detroit. Everybody who's involved, the police, everybody down there for keeping cool and just having a good time and setting the record for the attendance. And it was just spectacular.
Yep.
My chump is the Washington Capitals getting swept. But it should have been us in the playoffs.
Should have been us getting swept.
Yeah, well,
it could have been us getting swept.
I know. I hear you, my man.
That's it. You guys have a good one.
Hey, thank you for the phone call. 248-539-9797. John is next on 97.1 The Ticket. What's up, John?
Hi. I was wondering, you guys are talking about, defensive line and how they didn't do that much with it. But my question is, we had Chris Harris, the brothers, Julian and Romeo. And now we have different players. Those different players, are they better than those players we had last year? And if so, that, gives them a half a step more. And to add on the corners, as far as, our corner room is much better, how that translates, And then also, I haven't heard you guys mention anything about this guy's, the tackle. He's a, basketball star and all that. What about him, coming in, registering eligible and catching passes for us at the goal line? And what about one more thing, wide receivers? Burks from Tennessee Titans. He's kind of an odd man out there. He would probably fit in pretty nicely as an ex-receiver for us.
All right, you gave us a lot there, John. And we did talk about him being a basketball player. And as far as the defensive line, I don't know if they're better. I think we're doing the exact same thing. We'll start with that, okay, as he had a lot to say. The defensive line last year, we were doing, all right, you got Aiden Hutchinson, but one of the Aquaras or Charles Harris, James Houston is going to emerge on the other side. We're doing the same thing. Aiden Hutchinson and, James Houston or Marcus Davenport or Josh Pascal, or don't forget Matthew Betts, the 20-sack dude from the CFL. Like, we're doing the same thing. Is somebody going to emerge from that on that other side opposite? And as of right now, it's still a question mark.
Well, it didn't get worse, and I think it'll be so much better, and that's just because I don't expect James Houston to break his leg in the first week of the season. So I expect him to be there the whole season and healthy. Having a healthy Marcus Davenport to start the season, is he as good as, Romeo? Sure. He's probably better at this point. Romeo, he had the great year with the Lions, got the contract, got hurt, and then was struggling to get back and make the impact. Julian Aquara seemed like he was never healthy with the team, and just always left you wanting a little bit more. Like, there's talent there, but we just didn't see enough of it. So can Davenport be at least as good as the Aquaras? I think absolutely. And having a healthy James Houston gives me a little bit easier room here, I guess, to breathe. I think that they've got the better line right now, but it remains to be seen. You're also counting guys just being better. You're, like you mentioned, Josh Pascal. I expect Josh Pascal to be better than he was last year, and he started to make a little bit of an impact last year. Getting DJ Reader as a defensive tackle, how much of an impact is he going to have on the other guys? Because one thing the DJ Reader does is he pressures the quarterback from the inside. So teams are going to have to start thinking about who are we going to double team. It was easy for them to say we're going to double team Aiden Hutchinson. But will somebody else step up where they're going to have to say, wait a minute, we can't always double team him because we got to worry. We're getting pressure up the middle from DJ Reader. So we pay attention. Wait a minute. Now here comes Aleem McNeil. And wait a minute, James Houston's healthy? Hey, God, that guy had a high sack rate that rookie season. It seems like they'd be in better shape, but you don't know until you see.
Yeah, there's promise, but I'm hopeful on James Houston. I don't know if we have any idea what to expect from James Houston. Now, again, Pascal showed promise. Davenport, they obviously believe in. But somebody's got to emerge, or a couple guys got to step up and be playmakers on that other side. 248-539-9797. It's Karsch and Anderson. We'll get to our Champ and Chump nominations at 10:35 here on 97.1.